And right now we're going to speak with the business consultant Amanda Ludwig. She is with Increase Experts, increase.expert, and you will see the rescue button when you go to the website. That's the main thing you would be looking for. We're going to talk about these government lending programs here from the Small Business Administration. These are the PPP, the EIDL that ran out of money middle of last week. I don't think it lasted quite 2 weeks, so they have been refunded. And so Amanda is going to go over the ins and outs of getting approved for that money. And Amanda, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. Because this is, as a business owner, I can say that this is an uneasy or uncertain time for we business owners. And but in this time, there's a lot of really good options available, and so I appreciate you taking the time to go over these with me so we can get this information to a lot of people this morning.
Well, let's start in here. So first of all, and I guess the best known of these right now, these programs, is the Paycheck Protection program. Easy for me to say. So first, just give us the thumbnail sketch of how that works.
Sure. And I brought actually a printout from the SBA. So one problem that's happening that we're seeing over and over and over again as we're working with people on this is there's a lot of bad information available online.
Right.
So be careful what you're reading. Make sure you're reading from a reliable source, not Joe's blog. So this one directly from the SBA. That's the type of information we're looking for. So this program will give you 2.5 times your average payroll. 2.5 times your average payroll. So average out your monthly payroll, multiply that times 2.5. That is what you would be eligible for in a PPP, and it is 100% forgivable.
Now, what are the conditions for that?
Okay, very good question, and that's a question I wish more people would ask before receiving this funding. So it is forgivable if it is used for payroll, at least 75%. So the monies you receive, you have to use 75% of it for payroll, and then the other 25% can be used for qualifying costs, which include rent, utilities, and the interest part of your mortgage. Not your whole mortgage payment, just the interest part of your mortgage. That will allow it to be forgivable. And what is covered in payroll, there's some technicalities of what you can and can't, is it gross, is it net, is it health insurance, not health insurance, those types of things. So those are the technicalities that we get into when we're reviewing one of these with a client to prepare it.
And what is the application process like? How involved is it?
So actually, the application is not too bad. Now it depends on the lender you're going through. Most are taking electronic. Some smaller local banks are taking the standard paper application. So the SBA provided the application. But what we found in doing several of these before they closed is that every bank has their own spin on it. So some required bank statements, tax returns, several different, lots and lots of documentation. Some required not very much documentation, but there were standard things that were required. So some payroll calculations, payroll tax forms, things like that they required. They all had their own kind of different systems. So what we did was we just made a standard list of what we had seen from every bank, and we collected that from every client so that we would have everything. But you can expect to turn in payroll forms, payroll tax like 940, 941, those types of things at a minimum would be what you would be expected to turn in as an attachment to the standard SBA application.
But you're familiar with how all this works, how these banks operate. You can guide people through this pretty easily, I would think.
Yes, so we did several before it closed, and we worked with several different lenders. So something to note is that this is a competition. This is not, it's not sort of like what you would think of, you file your taxes and if you're due a refund, you get it. It's not that situation. It's not owed to us. This is a sort of a gift to us. And so it's very competitive. We did see some of the shuffling that you're seeing in the news with some lenders prioritizing the larger applications. We did see that locally, unfortunately. I could spend hours talking about that because of course it's frustrating when you're trying to get funds for small businesses and they were the ones kind of cut out of it. But we have compiled a list of the local lenders who are accepting applications from non-customers. So any client who is banking with one of the larger banks, like Wells Fargo initially, they opened on the whole program opened on Friday. Wells Fargo opened Saturday, closed by Sunday night initially. Gosh. So I mean, people, over the weekend who were thinking, oh, I'll do this on Monday, it had closed on Sunday night. So we've got a list of some great community banks credit unions who are doing this, and they are accepting applications from non-customers. So we keep that list available when folks come to us and say, hey, you know, I tried to go through so-and-so and so-and-so, and they shuffled me to the bottom.
All right, so let's talk about the EIDL. Now, this is an ongoing program. This is not new like the PPP.
Correct. This one's been around for a while. They put some new provisions into it, loosened up some of the requirements. So economic injury, disaster, and like PPP, it is a loan. That's a common misconception about PPP, is that it's sort of free money. It is a loan.
It's just that it's forgivable
Yes,
generally.
it's just forgivable if you've done your paperwork correctly on the tail end. So the application part, not so bad. The forgiveness part, you want to know what you're doing on PPP. So they're both loans, but the EIDL actually does have, little known, it does have a forgivable portion. There is a up to $10,000 advance for the EIDL. It's called the EIDL grant. So EIDL loan, EIDL grant.
So they just give you $10,000 and they lend you the rest?
Yes, and in fact, you can not even borrow the rest. You can just get the grant. So up to $10,000, it's $1,000 per employee. So if you have 3 employees, $3,000. If you have 20 employees, $10,000, because it caps off at 10. So in addition, and it does not conflict with PPP. So you can get PPP and you can get an EIDL advance. And for those who are looking at potentially more longer term impact, so there's some folks that are not so impacted right now. They've been able to continue to operate if they were an essential business. But in the long run, the work that they're doing now, they may have difficulty collecting from the customers, you know, because their customers may be struggling. They're doing okay, but their customers might be struggling. The EIDL loan is 3.75%, so very favorable rate. But more important than that, the terms can be 30 years. So there's not a lot to compete with that as far as lending. So for those who are going to need the cash flow, the immediate, so get the grant, and then the cash flow in the long run, it's a safety net. Since we don't, it's just unpredictable right now, so it's a safety net for the future just to ensure cash flow. Those funds can only be used for operations. They can't be used to refinance or to expand, but they are sort of a cushion to ensure operations in the long run.
Now, if you don't manage success with either of those programs, you can still get some tax credits?
That is correct. So with the anticipation of PPP and EIDL running out, again, possibly in days is the speculation, then for those, and for those businesses who are not open right now. So PPP giving everyone payroll, they might have already let everyone go, planning to rehire when they reopen. PPP is not a good fit for them. So someone in their brilliance came up with an employee retention tax credit. That is more designed for those folks who had to be closed, and this will allow them to earn tax credits for their payroll when they reopen. So that's, you know, don't be discouraged if you don't get PPP, if you don't get EIDL. There's tax credits for that, and then also get with your tax preparer, your actual income tax preparer, on the net operating loss carrybacks. So if you wind up having a loss for this year but had profit in the past, you need to look at some carrybacks. So there's some favorable things, even if you don't get the highly publicized programs, and we're expecting there to be more to come, which of course we're learning about as it happens.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine this is the last of the money that is going to be appropriated for this or for stimulus overall, but that's a topic for another day. So let me say that one thing, rather than for people going to a bank themselves, as we talked, you've worked with a lot of the different banks. They can just come to you and you can guide them through whichever process it needs. They don't have to be looking at just one. You can take everybody on.
That is correct. So we have one person, a designated person. We have an accountant in-house who actually has history in loan processing, so he's an ideal match for this position. His whole job right now is to work with folks on these. And what a lot of people don't realize is, one, when we do the initial call, he'll spend about an hour with each person going over options. It's absolutely free to make that call. So
you just call and schedule an hour block.
Yep, you schedule an hour block with him. You do that right through our website, and so that is the first step. He's going to kind of ask some questions, analyze, see what options might be available. The next part a lot of people don't realize about working with us is the SBA pays us to prepare the PPP. No cost to the client, which is huge because a lot of folks are, looking at, it's a tough time for us. How are we going to pay for these services? And so we can prepare the PPP and actually at no cost to the client. And we've also come up with some very favorable terms in hopes that folks will be funded before our bill comes due. So we're doing a lot to work with people. This is not the time to to be charging folks when they are really just stressed about how they're going to pay their employees, how they're going to stay open. So we've really come up with some favorable terms in helping people out.
And that first initial hour you said was free?
Yes,
as well?
They call and speak with him. He's going to go over a slide presentation of all of the options and ask a lot of questions to see if, so we want to work with folks, we want to analyze first to see if there are programs that are a good fit for them right now.
Now, as long as we've got a couple of minutes left here, I can't help but want to look for a little bit of lurid content here. Can you give us an example, maybe two, of some tough times people have had with this program? We've heard them from Clark Howard. You're bound to have one or two for us.
Yes, so I have probably 100 or 200, but I'll try to think of the ones that jump out to me on the most. So what scares me to death about this, and why, we didn't have to offer this as a service. We opted to do this, and in fact, I invested a lot of money in getting our staff trained because I felt like this was so important for the community, for businesses to stay open. And in doing that, what I started realizing was how much bad information there's out there. And then clients who had attempted to do this on their own were given so much bad information. And that's from CPAs, from attorneys, from the banks who are administering this. And the first one that jumps out at me is there's a gentleman whose lender helped them complete their application, and they answered one question incorrectly. Just one question on the PPP application was answered incorrectly. And that is going to cost him roughly $30,000 because those funds are not going to be eligible for forgiveness because the one question was answered incorrectly. And this is not the time that any of us want to lose $30,000.
That can be losing your business very easily. And so is there an appeals process you can take this person through?
Well, we are going to fight hard for them. We're, because all of this rolled out so quickly, there's not right. a amended application form. Those things don't exist.
Right.
We might be the ones who
ensure
that happens because this is happening. Incorrect applications, a lot of misguided folks through this process, and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
All right, so Amanda, how do people get in touch with you if they want some help getting any of this money through the Small Business Administration, whether it's the PPP, the EIDL, or it's the tax credits?
Sure. So our office opens at 9 o'clock, which is important to note because these applications open at 10:30 today.
Right.
So it's going to be a bit of a gold rush. Yes. So, even if you're not sure, if you're like, well, we don't really think we need the money, we don't know, let's look at it and be prepared for in the long run, because when it runs out, it runs out. So we open at 9 o'clock today, and so someone will be there to take your call. The number is 434-381-3088. Again, 381-3088. Give us a call, and that way we can get you scheduled with the person who's coordinating this, or if it's easier for you, just go onto the website, increase.expert, and click on the word rescue on the top, and you'll see a button to schedule your 1-hour consult. Again, it's absolutely free to talk to us for us to analyze what you may need. And if we do a PPP application for you, again, that is at no cost.
All right, very good, Amanda Ludwig. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, I appreciate it.